Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Tucker Carlson hits the nail on the head about the whole story behind the legacy of JD Vance, from hillbilly elegy to vice presidential candidate. But before we dive in, we are sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. If you want to protect your wealth against Bidenomics and Bidenflation, you need to go over to the experts who understand gold, precious metals, and silver, and they will protect your hard-earned dollars today.
JD Vance is the VP pick, and I think every person who pays close attention has got to be thrilled by that. And if you don't know much about JD Vance, I'm not even going to make a case for JD Vance. I'm going to tell you what I just saw, which is that every bad person I've ever met in a lifetime in Washington was aligned against JD Vance.
Okay.
And I do think the negative case is often more powerful, because I know of myself, I do not think I'm a particularly good person. I have strong reasons for feeling that way. I don't always think that my side is right. I know for a fact I have been wrong many, many times, and I hope to correct and be honest about my error. So it's not like I think that, I'm always, God's always on my side. Sometimes I'm not on God's side. But I definitely know who's representing the other side. It's a lot easier to tell who the people who are only in it because they like, killing other people in pointless wars. Like, I know who those people are. And their odor is so powerful that I can smell one when he walks in the room. And every single one of those people in a line that would extend from Milwaukee to Chicago was lined up over the last week to knife JD Vance. Not on personal grounds. He's a perfectly nice guy. He's like one of the only members of the Senate with a happy marriage. True. But because they thought he would be harder to manipulate and slightly less enthusiastic about killing people. That's it. That he would be an impediment to their exercising power. And boy, they went after him in a way I've just kind of never seen. Which I think happens every day in Washington. I just don't have a vantage on it because I'm far, far away and grateful to be. And again, I was just reminded that this process is so ugly that normal people do not want to participate in it. And yet normal people have to suck it up and do so anyway because the consequences are just so profound.
There is a whole lot to unpack here in this video. So instead of starting off with JD Vance, I'll get to him in a moment, we need to understand Tucker Carlson. Tucker grew up in the DC area. I think he grew up in DC proper. And so he has rubbed elbows with powerful people. He knows what a swamp monster looks like, and he can smell them from a mile away. I totally believe him on this. And here's the philosophy that Tucker has embraced. There are currently three narratives going on in the United States. There is the pushed narrative that caters to rich white liberals. There's an anti-narrative to that, which he tries to align with. And then there's the know-nothing narratives, where people will bury their heads in the sand because deep down they know something horrible is going on and they don't want to address the monster. Y'all, times are rough. Record inflation is still not under control. We have a president who doesn't know what planet he's on. And the Federal Reserve continues to make dumb decision after dumb decision after dumb decision. You can gamble on Wall Street all you want, but if you want to diversify and protect your wealth, you need to look into my friends over at Colonial Metals Group. These amazing experts understand how to keep your wealth safe and protected from the volatility of our current market. And there's even a great deal for first-time accounts. Free gold and silver-backed IRA accounts, insurance on whatever precious metals you happen to buy for 5 years, up to $7,500 worth of silver, and a nice safe for you to keep all this good stuff in. So go take a look at their website, link in the description below, or call the phone number below so you can talk personally to Paul Stone, CEO, and his amazing team of experts to protect your wealth today. What Tucker Carlson is ultimately getting at here, and I'm going to explain this using one political example. Remember Dan Crenshaw? Remember how much everyone seemed to love him at the time, or at least the conservatives seemed to love him? I was a big fan of his back in 2017, 2018, but after his first term in office, you started to notice things about him. He stopped being the fiery populist and started voting for the blob. Now, he and Nancy Pelosi have some of the best stock values in the entire market. which means that either someone got to Dan Crenshaw and told him, this is how things actually work around here, shut up, get paid, or he found some unspeakable truth and realized we can't fix anything. And I think it's a little bit of both. My personal theory is that a lot of populists will get to Washington and then they're told not that this is how the system works, you need to play ball. They're told something even worse. They're told that, well, here's the problem. And the problem is Social Security is going to run out in 10 years. Medicare, not far behind. We can't pay for these social programs because the boomers didn't have enough kids. And there's no way you can fix this problem. We tried to fix it back in the 90s. We tried to fix it in 2000, and the voters got so ticked off, they kicked a lot of people out of office, and it shifted the power balance. So we pretty much only get to do one of two things. We get to whine and complain about the other side, and we get to make a little money on the side. So, what are you going to do? I don't believe the CIA is threatening politicians. I believe that the political class themselves understand that there's a fundamental problem so deep, so heinous, so problematic that it's going to end everything, and they might as well get paid out now instead of dealing with the apocalypse later. And that's why so many populist politicians get into office and seem to flip. So that's what Tucker believes in. That's what I believe in. JD Vance, however, has a fourth narrative. He is one of the last great American success stories. If you've read Hillbilly Elegy, which I need to still read, or if you've seen the movie, you'll know that he had an addicted mother, a father that was not present, and that he had to basically fight off his parents while being raised by his grandmother in rural Appalachia in Ohio. He has used that book. He has used his ability, he has used his knowledge, he has served in our military, and he has risen to the rank of senator while being at the time, and this is another thing we really need to discuss, and we're not fully ready for this discussion. JD Vance is now the vice president. I'm not a huge fan of that pick, but I can get behind it. I'm okay with it, just thought that there were better options out there. But I do love his story, I do love his rhetoric, but he used to be a never-Trumper. And I was a never-Trumper up until the Access Hollywood tape. I know that's a really weird thing to say, but hear me out. ABC had sat on those tapes for decades. They could have released them back during the primaries and we would have elected Ted Cruz instead. I don't think evangelicals would have supported him. But after I realized that the media had sat on that story for months, I knew that the media was complicit and corrupt, and I voted for Trump out of spite for those people. I have a similar spite for a lot of media journalists today. Tucker is outside of that loop now. Thank God. By the way, Fox News, thank you for releasing him. He is a better journalist now than he ever was under your organization. So finally, we have to deal with a new problem. Evangelical voters initially despised Trump. It is the same reaction that we're having to the Amber Rose problem. She got up and spoke to the RNC, and she's pretty much known for two things: sleeping with rappers and showing off her body on Twitter. The reality, however, is that this is the new media landscape. This is a woman who is rising to the top in any way she can. She has succeeded and has realized in the same vein as JD Vance that Trump is not the evil person made out to be. And maybe, just maybe, I can change and reform myself and stop being the old, wrong-thinking person that I used to be. If Amber Rose can turn her life around, if JD Vance can turn the way he's thinking, the way he used to think around, then it shows that we have the mental maturity in the Republican Party that the Democrats don't seem to have. There is no forgiveness on the left. There is none. There is no path to redemption. There still is on the right. And so when Tenacious D apologized for one of their band members' terrible comment about the assassination attempt, they apologized and even canceled their tour out of shame. That needs to be forgiven. It is okay to forgive people. That is the whole point of one of the world's greatest religions in Christianity. So y'all, there's a lot to unpack with this. And I'm glad that you stuck with me through the whole thing. That Tucker is telling the truth about JD Vance. JD Vance is not a swamp monster. Vance is an American success story who has changed his line of thinking because he realized he was wrong. And finally, we need to have a conversation about what redemption is supposed to look like, what forgiveness is supposed to look like, and why we would ever have Amber Rose. I know she's not party to this, but the reason I'm bringing her up is that millions of people follow her. Millions of Gen Z kids follow her. And they want to be like her. Or at least they want to come to a similar amount of status. Amber Rose gave a very nice speech at the GOP convention. And it's proof positive that the Democrat coalition is breaking apart at the seams. That's the real reason that she's there. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed this segment here on PolitiBrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.